How's the injury situation looking?
Yeah, good. Barnsley's back on the grass with us now, which is another step forward for him, training with the first team group. He's not ready for this weekend or anything, but I mean, he's back in full training, so that'll do him the world of good, and happy to be out there, of course. Johan's still not quite there, minor, but you know, frustrating one for him and for us. Louts, we're just really protecting at the moment as he comes back from a knee injury. Hopefully it's not going to turn into anything serious. We don't think it is at this stage, but he's working with the medical team at the moment. They're the main three.
Everyone else good to go? Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. A few aches and pains, but nothing too major.
6 games undefeated. That's a great run to be on at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, really pleasing. I think we weren't as good as we have been last weekend. Not so much defensively. I thought we were strong defensively, but we weren't as creative as we've been in the previous games. So that's a reminder, you know, of the level we've got to keep getting to take care of ourselves. But overall, a very strong run and mostly very strong performances.
11 clean sheets as well now in the Premier League. I think only Liverpool have managed more. We've just been speaking to James Tarkowski, who's been telling us that he thinks it's helpful. It's been a real help to have that solid back three of himself, Burnley and Popey. How much do you think that is success is down to that familiarity that those three have got to be?
Well, I think it helps. I think, you know, when a unit plays together, when a team plays together often, you know, I think the slowdown in rotation has been seen the last season or two generally. I don't know the facts on that, but it certainly looks it to me. But from our point of view, then I think when you keep units together, I think it helps. Generally speaking, we've kept it together. Louts has been in and out and Bardo between them. Eric's Peter started the season, Charlie coming in, but the two centre-halves have played a lot, and with Popey, of course. So I think it does help. I don't think it's everything. I think we've still got players who, as I mentioned, the fullbacks have changed, done a very good job. But I think it does help if you can keep a unit together, particularly a defending unit.
So with that in mind and with the run that you're on, how important do you think momentum is going to be now between now and the end of the season for the last 10 Premier League?
Well, we'll see. I mean, it does help, obviously. But equally, we've shown we had a tough run and come out of that with a real strong run, so that can happen as well. But it does help. I think, you know, winning and performing brings the feel-good factor, and when you've got that, often you see a spike in energy as well. So I think they are linked. But I think it's being resilient to whatever comes your way, and I think we've shown we can do that. You know, as a collective, we've been mentally tough enough to deal with the challenges, the goods, the bads, the indifference of the Premier League. That's what it takes, because it is difficult. And another difficult task coming this weekend when Tottenham come to visit us.
You could go above them if you get a win against Spurs. That 40-point target is so close. Is that the one that you always look for first, and then anything else above that is a bonus?
I think a lot of teams in the division look for that as being the first mark, and you know, the quicker you can get to there, then in theory you open your mind up to the possibilities. You know, what comes next, and I think it's not a you know, I think a few years ago it was looked at as being maybe a bit negative, but I think it's just reality. You know, there's a number of clubs. It's not just us. I think, you know, clubs that are new to the division, ones that haven't got the sort of amazing spending power of some, you know, you have to look and go, all right, what's the first achievement level? Then the first achievement level is the ongoing, you know, the whys and wherefores and the ups and downs, the trials and tribulations that everyone wants of being in the Premier League. And that's what we want. We want to continue in the Premier League. So I think that's the first marker. Usually 40 points suggests that's going to happen. Obviously, it's not guaranteed at 40, but generally speaking, it's actually factually less than that, generally speaking. But I think once you hit there, then the theory is if you can hit that as quick as possible, the shoulders come back, you know, you open your minds and go, right, where can this take us? What levels can we hit to get more and more points on the board? And we've done it, obviously, a couple of seasons ago. The next one's the most important one. Our minds stay focused on the Tottenham game because it is an important game. And then we'll take it from there.
Do you ever look back at the result earlier in the season at Spurs and get a bit of a shiver down your neck?
No. That can happen in the Premier League. You catch teams, you know, that sort of, especially the real top end of the market, the talent they've got, the way that they can operate. If you catch them on their right day and you have a soft day, then you get hurt. That's just simple in the Premier League. That happens to all teams, not just us. You even saw that with the superpower team that Liverpool are. You know, one out the blue, it can happen. So I think if it can happen to them, it can happen to us, you know. So I think we learn from all these different situations over a season. But that was a long time ago, and we're in probably a different shape now. I think mentally, physically, tactically, technically, I think we've had a shift from then to now. So we've got to go and deliver, of course.
How much different, therefore, a proposition are Spurs now, given the fact that they've got no Kane or Son?
Yeah, I mean, look, they're big players and very important players, you know, both in your mind's eye, but also stats and facts, you know, suggest they're important players. I think there's often noise around these games and these teams, but they're still a good team. You know, look at the outfit they've got. You look at the players they've got. They can still be productive. They're on a sticky patch. That can happen. You know, a bit of strange goings on the other night off the pitch, which can happen as well. I'm sure it's not ideal, but it happens. And then they're coming up to Turf Moor. So it's about us really, you know, or we want to make the game better. So now we take the game on. We're probably different to them. We're in good shape mentally, good shape physically, ready to go, prepped and ready. And certainly with the mental side of it, a home game, you know, against even a good side like them, if they're having an up and down spell, we certainly want to take on the challenges. We always do. So I don't think our approach will change. I think they'll have to decide what they're going to do, quite obviously. But our approach will be the same, to take on the challenge that is right in front of us.
Speaking of the off-field situation, obviously what happened with Eric Dyer last night, have you been ever worried about any of your players ever doing anything like that? Is it something that you speak to them about?
No, I mean, I don't know the true ins and outs of it, as I'm sure you don't yourself, the actual detail. We know what we've seen. I think, you know, it's tough. You manage a group of people, but they are people, you know. Everyone has a moment where enough is enough. Now, I don't know the details, but if you think about it just logically, for a player to feel the need or the urge to do that, then it must have been something serious. That's all I could say. What was said or around about said, that's all I can put together at the moment, what was said. It must have been something serious. So I don't think, I certainly, you might know more than me, I don't know the details of what was said or what happened, but I've seen some of the footage. You know, you're asking to manage the undefinables. You know, the human beings have a moment, and if that moment goes too far, he's obviously had a reaction to whatever was said, let's say. In the bigger picture of that, you know, where does it live? I mean, what level of abuse is allowed, if you know what I mean? Providing there was some. I don't know the ins and outs, as I said, but generally speaking, what level is kind of acceptable? You pay your ticket, we all know that. You can have your say, we all know that, and that's been around forever. But what level is enough, you know, where you go, no, that's too much. I must say I've had it twice this year, which is only twice in a long time. You know, I'm pretty thick-skinned. I've had a number of jokes said about my hair colouring, as you can imagine. I've heard them all. Amazingly, people still shout things they think I haven't heard, which always amuses me. But I've had twice this season when I thought it was too much. And I've said to the person, not in using any expletives, just said, that's enough now. You know, when it's got too far. There's children in the stands as well, you know. We have to try and watch our language and stuff as well. On the sideline. It's not easy. But anyway, I don't know where the lines are. I don't know where you draw the lines. But on this occasion, the players decided enough was enough.
Does it surprise you then in that sense that given the abuse that you've had before and the abuse that a lot of players will get on a regular basis, that incidents like last night don't happen more often?
Oh, I don't know about that. And I must make it clear as well. Mine's two incidents in thousands of very good moments with supporters, both around stadiums and outside of stadiums, and when I'm with my family and stuff. But most people are really, really good and really, you know, they just want to have a chat with you and sometimes a bit of fun with you. So it's only two moments I've had, so I must make that clear. The idea of trying to control it, I don't know, because, you know, where does some of the social media stuff that we hear, you know, amazing tool that it is in many positive ways, but there is some bad stuff out there. When does that go into then the actual moment of truth? When it's, you know, someone in a stadium saying that, not just on a phone or on a tweet or whatever. So I don't know how you govern it. I don't know how you manage it. But it's on this occasion, maybe it's highlighted where a moment goes too far. But until we know, I certainly don't know the exact what was said or what was gesticulated or whatever happened. I don't know what tolerance there is on it, but it just goes to show you people do have a tolerance, even footballers, and eventually enough's enough.
Sean, just on a quick one on the injuries. Is Johan's injury, what exactly is it? Is it
a calf? No, calf, yeah, just a minor calf. He's had a number of niggles, hamstrings, calves, and it's just another one, unfortunately.
And Matt Loughton, think unlikely for the weekend?
Yeah, unlikely. He won't be involved. He won't be involved on Saturday night.
Okay, thanks.
And neither will Barnsley, just to be clear.
Just on the clean sheets, obviously been a lot of talk about Nick Pope recently and potential England call-up #1, etc. How impressed have you been with his form this season, and how much more do you think he has development in him, given that he's, relatively speaking, quite late to the Premier League?
Well, I've certainly been impressed with him for a long time now. I think the way he's reacted also through a tough injury, the way he's come back through that, he continually learns. I think he's got a good manner about him in our group, and professional manner, in the sense of feedback from Billy Mercer about, you know, his game. he continues to improve. And I think the main thing is that the respect that he has in the group in front of him as well. And I think that's paid back, by there's a dual respect, and I think that's important. He knows he's got whoever plays, 10 players in front of him are going to give their lot defensively, and that does give him, a sort of an increased belief that when it comes to his job, he's got that support. And likewise, they know if it does break through everyone, he's pulled some big saves out for us and some big moments, and he continues to do that.
Yeah, I guess that save at Leicester the penalty save was something of a turning point in the end. And looking back at it now reflectively, and that he went on to win that game and kick-started a little run that he's still on.
Yeah, I mean, you never, often them moments you're never quite sure when they happen. But you do look back on that one and think, okay, that one probably helped with that game. He'd made a couple of good saves as well, which he is allowed to do, I'd just say afterwards. But he made a couple of good saves and that penalty save. We finished that game as winners, and then we have moved on from there. So sometimes them big moments don't seem it at the time, but they are on reflection, and that probably is one. And he played his part in that quite obviously.
How big a role does Billy Mercer and perhaps Joe Hart play sort of behind the scenes as well, given obviously their experiences through?
Well, Bill's done a great job here. There's no two ways about that. Everyone would know that, and the keepers that work for him always vouch for that. I think the group of keepers, collective, all the different groups that we've had, have always had a good spirit about them and a good kind of authentic support for each other. They all know the rules. I mean, keepers do. There's only one can wear the main shirt. And I think there's the old union idea, the goalkeepers union. I'm not sure it's still there at other clubs, but it certainly is here, and it has been since I've been here. I think there's a tight unit, and they all understand, they all respect each other, they all push each other, because they know any one of them at any given time is going to be needed, and they've got to be ready. And I think there's a healthy respect amongst the keepers, and of course with Bill as well.
I guess Popey's got someone like Bailey who's young and learning and coming up on the rails a little bit, and someone like Joe who's been there, seen it and done it in football is I guess a perfect combination for him.
Yeah, and when Tom was here, of course, great servant to himself, the team and the club. Them guys rub off on each other, and a good group of keepers that we've had all along here. And I certainly think this is another good group that we've had with, as you rightly said, with Joe and Bailey as well. Excuse me.
We've spoken quite a bit this season about the value of the players who aren't playing and what they bring and how they're always ready to go. I think there was a stat doing the rounds this week that you don't make a huge amount of subs, relatively speaking, across the Premier League. I guess is to some of that extent, perhaps it's overthought how often you need to change things from the bench.
No, I think every manager has their different thoughts. Every manager has their different styles. I always think I start with the team that I think can win. So therefore, if I think it can win, there's a 95-minute game, sometimes 96, sometimes 97. So if I think it can win, I think it can win all the way through it. So there is a time when you make, decisions on moments and changes when you think it's appropriate. I think there's varying views of it. Some people look at every change as being the next one that's going to change a game. I don't always look at it like that. If I think the team that started is the team that can win a game anyway.
And just going back to the clean sheets, Charlie Taylor obviously is another person who we've spoken of quite a bit in recent weeks. I think there was some speculation, which I won't ask you to comment on now, regarding Leicester. But given his form, can you see how he's getting more and more attention from whoever it might be, other clubs, fans?
Yeah, he had a really good season last season. He had a slow start to the season, but that was partly brought on by Eric Peters' sort of form, really. Eric came in the door, made it quite clear with the way he trained, the way he went about it, that he's ready. And Charlie had a couple of injuries and wasn't quite as sharp as he was. But then he's come back in and looked absolutely on it, I must say. I've been very impressed with his performances. He's still learning as well, don't forget. He's a very strong player physically. And I think he's learning and I think he's improving. So as I said, I think in the background at least, I think it should be in the England thoughts, not necessarily, I certainly don't pick teams for anyone, certainly not Gareth. But I would like to think he's somewhat on the radar. And I think if he gets in around that, then he's certainly up for thought with that side of things, with the international scene, because I think he's a very good player and he continues to learn.
I think he's 26, maybe 27, so he's sort of in the prime of his career as well, and you've got him down to a long-term contract here, so you're hoping to reap the benefits of him learning and developing for the next 3, 4, 5 seasons.
Well, the theory is that, we want players to develop here regardless of contracts, but I think when they sign, longer-term contracts, so that is with a view of them continuing their growth, and I think he's certainly one that's showing strong signs of that. I thought he did last season, as I said, and I think in certainly the last handful of games, he's been very strong. I thought some of his 1v1 defending at Newcastle last week was excellent. And, you know, he's still got to tidy up a little bit with the ball at times and make better decisions. But his defensive responsibility, he's a very, very strong defender. And I still think that's relevant in the modern game.
Can you give us any update on any of the players who are out of contract this summer as to whether there might be movement in the next couple of weeks on perhaps new deals being agreed?
No.
And similar question, is there any update on Ben Gibson, or is that situation still as it was?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I have to ask.
Of course.
Hi, Sean. Just on those two instances you said earlier, were those inside the stadium or outside? Or
The instance of what, sorry?
Like just saying to the fans, enough now.
Oh no, just a couple of people shouted stuff inside the games, which, you know, I'm well aware of how fraught it gets inside of stadiums and the emotion. So it wasn't a big drama. There was no anything other than me just saying, come on, you know, that's enough. So it's no big drama. And like I say, most people are very, very kind. And usually it's a bit of fun more than anything with myself. So I quite enjoy that. So I'm not going to ever question that. But it was just new to me to have twice this season when I've had to actually say, right, okay, that's enough. You know, there is a line.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe not just these two instances, but in past instances as well, like throughout your managerial career, have you ever thought, I maybe shouldn't have reacted, I shouldn't have given them the satisfaction if you have said enough now, or whatever?
No, I don't think there's anything wrong with just being polite and saying enough now. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. No, I've not really had any cause previously. Like I say, fans inside the stadium and outside have been very good to me, and they continue to be. It was just 2 moments in a season, which I don't think is overly amounts either. You know, I can put up with that, but it was just worth mentioning it because it's 2 in one season when I'd had none in any season. So that's probably the difference.
Cool. And just looking ahead to this game with Harry and Son missing out and Tottenham in a bit of a sticky patch, like you said, and you on a beaten run, does this bridge the gap between the two teams? Is this a good time to take them on this weekend?
Well, I think it can always look like that, but when the whistle blows, you know, you sometimes remember how good some of these players are. So we're certainly not taking it for granted that they're on a sticky patch. That means that we take care of business. We're certainly not doing that. We know we'll have to give everything. We had a very good result against them at Turf Moor last season. We'll certainly have to replicate that level of performance to go and get what we want. And if you don't, then you don't get it. Simple as that, because they're still a good unit.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.